Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Anna, and I am very happy you are here today. This podcast is for people who want to learn new things. Today, we have a very interesting topic. We are going to talk about taxes. I know, taxes sound very boring, but don't worry, we will make it simple and fun. My co-host, Mark, is here with me. Hi, Mark. Are you ready to talk about taxes today? I think many people have questions about this topic, and we want to help. So let's start and learn together. It will be easy and friendly, I promise.
Hi, Anna. Yes, I am very ready. Hello to all our listeners. My name is Mark, and I am so happy to be here. Taxes. Yes, it is a big word, but it is not so scary. Many people hear the word tax and feel confused or worried. But today, Anna and I will explain everything in a simple way. We will use easy words. We will go step by step. By the end of this podcast, you will understand what taxes are and why they matter. So please listen carefully and enjoy. Let's go, Anna.
Okay, Mark, let's start with the most basic question. What is a tax? I think some people hear this word but do not really know what it means. A tax is money that people pay to the government. Everyone pays taxes. People who work, people who buy things, and businesses too. The government uses this money to pay for important things in our country, things like schools, hospitals, and roads. Without taxes, the government cannot do these things. So taxes are actually very important for all of us, even if we don't always like paying them.
That's a great explanation, Anna. Yes, a tax is money you give to the government. You do not choose to pay it. It is required by law. That means everyone must pay. If you work and earn money, you pay a tax. This is called income tax. If you buy something in a shop, you sometimes pay a tax too. This is called sales tax. There are many kinds of taxes, and we will talk about them today. The most important thing to remember is this: taxes help the government take care of the country and the people who live in it.
Right. So, Mark, why do we need taxes? Can you explain more? I think many beginners want to know this. The government needs money to do its job. Think about your local school. The teachers need a salary. The building needs electricity and cleaning. Who pays for all of this? The government does. And the government gets its money from taxes. The same is true for hospitals. Doctors and nurses need to be paid. Medicine costs money. The government uses tax money to help pay for healthcare in many countries. So when you pay taxes, you are helping your community.
Exactly, Anna. Taxes pay for many things we use every day. Think about the road you drive on. Someone built that road. Someone fixes it when it has holes. That costs a lot of money. The government pays for it with tax money. Think about the police. They keep us safe. Their salary comes from taxes too. And firefighters. They help us when there is a fire. They also get paid with tax money. So taxes are not just about the government. They're about all of us working together to make life better and safer for everyone in our country.
That's so true, Mark. I like how you said working together. Now let's talk about who pays taxes. I think some listeners might wonder, do I have to pay taxes? In most countries, yes. If you earn money from a job, you pay income tax. If you are a student and you work part-time, you may also pay some taxes, depending on how much you earn. In some countries, children do not pay taxes, but when you become an adult and start working, you will pay taxes. It is a normal part of adult life. Everyone does it, and it is important to understand how it works.
Yes, and it is not just about work. You also pay taxes when you buy things. For example, when you go to the supermarket and buy food, sometimes there's a small tax added to the price. This is called VAT in many countries. VAT means value-added tax. In the United States, it is called sales tax. When you see the price on a product, the final price at the cashier may be a little higher because of this tax. It happens automatically. You don't need to calculate it yourself. The shop does it for you. But it is good to know it exists.
Great point, Mark. So there are different types of taxes. Let's talk about the most common ones. First, there is income tax. This is the tax you pay on the money you earn from your job. Second, there is sales tax, or VAT, the tax on things you buy. Third, there is property tax. If you own a house or land, you pay a tax on it every year. The government uses this money for local services, like schools and parks near your home. These are the three most common types of taxes. Of course, there are more, but these are the ones most people deal with in everyday life.
Income tax is probably the most important one for most people. Let me explain it simply. When you work, your employer pays you a salary, but before you receive your money, the government takes a small percentage. This percentage is the income tax. For example, if you earn $1,000, you might receive $800 in your bank account. The other $200 goes to the government as income tax. The percentage you pay depends on how much you earn. People who earn more money usually pay a higher percentage. People who earn less pay a lower percentage. This system is called a progressive tax system.
A progressive tax system. That's an interesting concept, Mark. Can you explain more? In a progressive system, the more you earn, the more tax you pay. But this does not mean rich people are treated unfairly. It means the system tries to be balanced. For example, a person who earns $20,000 a year might pay 10% in taxes. A person who earns $200,000 a year might pay 30% or more. The idea is that people with more money can afford to pay more. This helps the government collect enough money to help everyone, including people who earn very little or cannot work at all.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, Anna, let's talk about something called a tax return. Have you heard this word? Many people, especially beginners, find this confusing. A tax return is a document you send to the government every year. In this document, you tell the government how much money you earned and how much tax you already paid. Sometimes you paid too much tax during the year. In that case, the government gives you some money back. This is called a tax refund. It's like a bonus. People are often very happy when they get a tax refund. It feels like free money, even though it was your own money all along.
Yes, getting a tax refund is a nice feeling. But let me explain why you might pay too much tax. During the year, your employer takes taxes from your salary every month, but sometimes they take a little too much. This can happen if you work fewer hours or if you have certain expenses that can reduce your tax. At the end of the year, you file a tax return. The government checks everything and calculates the correct amount. If they took too much, they give it back. If they took too little, you must pay the difference. So it is very important to file your tax return correctly every year.
And when do you file a tax return? In most countries, you do it once a year. In the United States, for example, the deadline is usually April 15th. In the United Kingdom, it is January 31st. Different countries have different deadlines. It is very important to file on time. If you are late, you might have to pay a fine or a penalty. A penalty is extra money you must pay as a punishment for being late. Nobody wants to pay extra money, so always remember your country's tax deadline. You can usually find this information on the government's official website.
Good advice, Mark. Now, let's talk about something called tax deductions. This is a very useful concept for everyone. A tax deduction means something that reduces the amount of tax you have to pay. For example, in many countries, if you spend money on education or medical costs, you can deduct some of that from your tax. This means you pay less tax. The government allows these deductions to help people with important expenses. So if you pay for a course to learn new skills, or if you have big medical bills, you might be able to save money on your taxes. It is important to know what deductions you can use.
Tax deductions are really helpful. Let me give some more examples. If you work from home, you might be able to deduct some of your home expenses, like electricity or internet costs. If you give money to a charity, in many countries, this is also a deduction, so you pay less tax because you helped others. Also, if you have children, there are often special deductions for families. The government wants to help parents because raising children is expensive, so always check what deductions are available in your country. Sometimes people miss deductions and pay more tax than they need to. A little research can save you a lot of money.
That's so true. Now, Mark, let me ask, what happens if someone does not pay their taxes? This is an important question. Not paying taxes is against the law. It is called tax evasion, and it is a serious crime. If the government discovers that you did not pay, you will have to pay the full amount plus extra penalties. In very serious cases, people can even go to jail. So it is very important to pay your taxes honestly. I know taxes are not fun to pay, but they are necessary, and the consequences of not paying are much worse than just paying what you owe. Always be honest with the government.
That's right, Anna. Tax evasion is legal, but there is something different called tax avoidance. Tax avoidance means using legal methods to pay less tax. For example, using all your deductions or investing money in certain ways that reduce your tax. This is completely legal. The government allows it. Big companies and rich people often have experts called accountants or tax advisors who help them pay less tax legally. But even regular people can do simple things to reduce their taxes legally. Knowing the rules and using deductions is not cheating, it is being smart. So learn the rules in your country and use them to your advantage.
I love that distinction, Mark. Legal is fine, illegal is not. Now let's talk about something many people wonder about. What is VAT exactly? VAT stands for Value Added Tax. It is a tax added to most products and services when you buy them. In Europe, VAT is very common. For example, in the United Kingdom, the standard VAT rate is 20%. So if something costs £100, you actually pay £120 because of VAT. This tax is included in the price in most shops. You might not even notice it. But when you see price includes VAT on a receipt, now you know what it means.
VAT is interesting because businesses also deal with it. When a business buys materials to make a product, they pay VAT. When they sell the product, they charge VAT to the customer, but the business only sends the difference to the government. This is why it's called value added. Each step in the process adds some value, and the tax is calculated on that added value. It's a clever system, actually. Of course, as a normal consumer, you don't need to think about all of this. You just pay the price at the shop. But it is good to understand the system a little bit.
Absolutely. Now, Mark, let's talk about self-employment and taxes. More and more people work for themselves these days, as freelancers, online sellers, or small business owners. Taxes are a little different for these people. When you are employed by a company, your employer takes care of the taxes for you automatically. But when you work for yourself, you are responsible for calculating and paying your own taxes. This can be a little more complicated. You need to keep records of all your income and expenses. You also need to pay taxes yourself, usually a few times a year.
Yes, being self-employed means you have more responsibility with taxes. One important thing is to save money for taxes as you go. For example, some self-employed people save 20 to 30% of every payment they receive. This way, when it is time to pay taxes, they already have the money ready. If you don't save, you might spend all your money and then have nothing left for taxes. That is a very stressful situation. Also, self-employed people can often deduct many business expenses, like a computer, office supplies, or even a part of their home if they work there. These deductions can lower the tax a lot.
Great tips for self-employed people. Now let's talk about children and taxes. As we said, children usually don't pay income tax because they don't work. But when children become young adults and start their first job, they need to learn about taxes. In many countries, you get a personal allowance. This is the amount of money you can earn before you start paying tax. For example, in the UK, the personal allowance is about £12,500 per year. So if you earn less than that, you pay no income tax at all. This is very helpful for young people who work part-time while studying.
That's a really helpful point, Anna. A personal allowance makes taxes easier for young workers. Now, let me talk about tax numbers. In many countries, you need a special identification number for taxes. In the United States, it is called a Social Security number, or SSN. In the UK, it is called a National Insurance number. This number is very important. It connects all your tax information to you personally. When you start a new job, your employer will ask for this number. The government uses it to track how much tax you have paid. Keep this number safe and private. It's very personal information.
Yes, your tax number is very private and important. Never share it with strangers. Now, Mark, let's talk about taxes in different countries. Every country has its own tax system. Some countries have very high taxes. For example, in Scandinavian countries like Sweden or Denmark, people pay very high income tax, sometimes 50% or more of their salary. But in return, they get many free services from the government, free healthcare, free education, and more. Other countries have lower taxes, but people pay more for services themselves. There is no perfect system. It depends on what the country values and how it wants to help its people.
That is a great point about different systems, Anna. The United States has a different system from Europe. Americans pay federal taxes to the national government and also state taxes to their own state. Different states have different tax rates. Some states, like Texas or Florida, have no state income tax. Other states, like California or New York, have quite high state taxes. So where you live in the USA can make a big difference to how much tax you pay. This is why some people choose to move to lower tax states. It can save a lot of money, especially for high earners.
Wow, that is interesting. So taxes can even affect where you decide to live. Now, Mark, let me ask, what is a tax bracket? This is a term people hear a lot. A tax bracket is a range of income that is taxed at a certain rate. In the USA, for example, the first part of your income might be taxed at 10%, the next part at 12%, a higher part at 22%, and so on. You don't pay the same rate on all your money. Each bracket has its own rate. So even if you earn a lot, only the money above a certain level is taxed at the higher rate. Many people misunderstand this, so it is important to know.
Yes, tax brackets confuse a lot of people. Let me give a simple example. Imagine the first $10,000 you earn is taxed at 10%. The next $10,000 is taxed at 20%. If you earn $20,000 total, you pay 10% on the first $10,000, that is $1,000, and 20% on the second $10,000, that is $2,000. So you pay $3,000 total. Your average tax rate is 15%, even though the highest bracket you're in is 20%. This system means that earning more money is always better, even after tax. You will always take home more money if you earn more.
Perfect explanation, Mark. That makes it very clear. Now let's talk about business taxes. Companies and businesses also pay taxes. When a business makes a profit, that means they earn more money than they spend, they pay a tax on that profit. This is called corporate tax or business tax. The rate varies by country. In the USA, the federal corporate tax rate is currently 21%. Companies, just like people, can also use deductions to lower their tax. For example, they can deduct the cost of equipment, employee salaries, and office rent. Taxes are an important part of running any business.
Yes, and businesses often have accountants to help them with taxes. An accountant is a professional who understands tax rules very well. For a regular person, doing your own taxes might be simple enough, but for a business or for someone with a complicated financial situation, an accountant is very helpful. They know all the legal ways to reduce tax. They make sure you don't miss any deductions. They also make sure you don't make mistakes. Mistakes on your tax return can cause problems with the government, so it is important to be accurate. Many people, even quite simple ones, use an accountant or tax software to help.
Good point. Tax software is also very useful. There are many computer programs and apps that help you calculate and file your taxes. In the United States, popular programs include TurboTax and H&R Block. These programs ask you questions and fill in the forms for you. They are designed to be easy even for beginners. In many countries, the government also offers free online tools to help people file their taxes, so you don't always need to pay an accountant. Technology makes taxes a little bit less scary and a little bit easier. I used tax software for the first time last year, and it was much simpler than I expected.
That's great to hear, Anna. Technology really does help. Another helpful concept is withholding. When you work for an employer, they withhold a part of your salary for taxes. This means they take the tax out before they pay you. They send this money directly to the government on your behalf. So every month, your employer is already paying your taxes for you from your salary. At the end of the year, you file a tax return to check if the amount withheld was correct. Most employees find that withholding is very convenient. They don't have to worry about saving money for taxes because it's already done automatically.
Withholding is indeed very convenient. Now, Mark, one last main topic I want to cover. Why do some people dislike taxes? I think it's important to talk about this honestly. Many people feel that taxes are too high. They work hard and then lose a big percentage of their money to the government. Some people also feel that the government doesn't always spend tax money wisely. They might see roads that are broken or schools that need more resources and wonder where the tax money goes. These are fair feelings. Taxes can feel frustrating, but most experts agree that a society needs taxes to function, even if we can debate how much and how they are spent.
That is a very honest answer, Anna. It is okay to have different opinions about taxes. Some people believe taxes should be lower and that people should keep more of their own money. Others believe that higher taxes help create a fairer society where everyone gets help. In many countries, taxes are a big political topic. People vote for politicians who share their views on taxes. This is normal in a democracy. What is most important, no matter what your opinion is that you understand how the system works. When you understand taxes, you can make better decisions for your own life and participate more intelligently in political conversations.
And that brings us to the end of today's podcast. Wow, we covered so much today. We talked about what taxes are, why we pay them, the different types of taxes, tax returns and refunds, deductions, and even the differences between countries. I hope this was helpful and easy to understand. Remember, taxes are a normal part of life. Learning about them helps you plan better, save money legally, and be a responsible member of society. Thank you so much to everyone who listened today. Please share this podcast with a friend who also wants to learn about taxes. See you next time.
Thank you so much, everyone. I really enjoyed today's conversation with Anna. We hope you learned something new and useful today. Taxes don't have to be scary or confusing. With a little knowledge, you can feel confident about your taxes. If you have questions, you can always talk to an accountant, use tax software, or look at your government's official website. They are all there to help you. Remember, the more you know, the better you can manage your money. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you in our next episode. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.